On this episode of The Streets, young deviance, the early signs. The crime stats indicate that many, if not most, of the gun killings in Barbados are perpetrated by teenagers, young men, 16, 17, 18 years old. It's a concern for law enforcement and the criminologists. The experts see the need for better systems to spot the signs early in the school system in order to make early targeted interventions. At the same time, research shows that many of those involved in crime across the region had educational challenges, low educational achievement, or even dropped out of school. Professor Corinne Bailey is professor of sociology, crime and social inequality, and director of the Center for Criminal Justice and Security at the University of the West Indies, Cafel Campbell.
We are now paying a lot of attention, thankfully, to identification of risk. There are a number of projects that we at the center are involved with across the Eastern Caribbean, trying to identify risk.
Speak to the various risk factors.
Right. So, we're talking. So, what we've done, I should backtrack a bit. What we've done is we've developed tools. We've taken tools that have been used elsewhere, modified them for the region, validated them, and we've gone into a number of different countries within the Eastern Caribbean to try and understand risk, quantitative tools, qualitative tools. Out of that has come a few things where none of these should be surprising to us. We're talking about low levels of education. Those who are involved in criminal activity, young, and it's always, as you know it, we're talking about young men, young boys to men, generally show a lack of education. We're talking about the vast majority having not completed secondary school, with some having not completed primary school as well.
Educational attainment as being a risk factor. Mm-hmm. Some would argue that in Barbados, those factors may not, because of the general universal access to education, would not be as severely, that risk factor might not be severe in the Barbadian context, as opposed to maybe a country like Jamaica and have a wider economic disparity.
Right.
What does your research show?
Right. So, I mean, it the reasons may vary. So if you take a country like Jamaica, there's more of a problem of access to quality education. So because one might say, okay, some kind of education is available to everybody, but in Jamaica, without going too much into it, in Jamaica, there are certain schools that are traditional high schools are the ones that are associated with success. Those are the ones that are well staffed, well equipped. We tend to recycle poverty because those that are accepted to the traditional high schools are the ones from middle or upper income homes, while lower income ones are funneled into low performing schools. So so we have that problem of access in Jamaica. Here, less of a problem of access, but there are a multitude of reasons as to why one does not complete school, and in many instances it is pressure to work. It is the fact that you may drop out of school because your family is struggling and you want to help to provide, or it may be that because your parents are so caught up with the day-to-day struggle to survive that they do not have the ability to really watch over, for want of a better word, to adequately supervise your child's process through the educational system, and so they may lose interest. The child may lose interest and just drop out of school. What I can tell you is that despite the difference in reasons, the work that I've done here in Barbados shows that yes, those that are incarcerated for crimes in Barbados, particularly violent crimes, show the same kind of risk profile as other countries. We're talking about the majority having not completed secondary school, and some, again, having not completed primary school as well. It is a very, very common risk factor across the Caribbean.
Director of the Criminal Justice Research and Planning Unit, Cheryl Willoughby, a former police officer, sees a need for the police to maintain close contact with the schools in their community because it's at the schools where early signs of deviance become apparent.
In 1985, right through to about 1995, when Honorable Jordan was the commissioner of police, we saw community policing as one of the strategies that was at the forefront of policing in Barbados. We saw community police officers in schools, and they were able to feedback information to myself. At that time, I was the sergeant in charge of the juvenile liaison scheme. So information was able to be fed back to me where I could target those youngsters that they saw within the schools who were having problems with their teachers, who were stealing at school and so on. So we need to have that so that police officers can play a more intimate role in liaising with community members, going into the schools, liaising with teachers, so that even violence within our schools can be addressed and they can identify at-risk students within the schools so that that information can be fed back to the social agencies.
Herbert Gittins has spent many years as an educator. He has served as General Secretary of the Barbados Union of Teachers and as a principal at the primary level. Are the signs of deviance evident even at that early stage?
We have to recognize that there are that students are of many and very different abilities, learning styles, and all of that. And I believe that in terms of the vocational education, because we cannot expect every child to to perform academically right throughout their career. And I believe that what is needed is that we start having a variety of introducing students to a variety of skills, vocational skills, from as early as the primary level. Do not wait until they get to the secondary level where you would have all the vocational subjects and the woodwork and all of those things, but rather have those skills so that each student can find a way of achieving. So if you're not good at the maths and the English and so on, you may be good at art, you may be good at some skill. So do skill things. And one of the things I did as a principal at Resi Hall, and if you, I don't know if you ever had a chance to go on Resi Hall Instagram page, but you will see that any opportunity that was given to the school for children to be involved in. So I had at the school, we had cricket, football, chess, boxing, tennis. We had a range of sports and any other activity, anything. Just before I left, it was something on financial planning, anything at all that can help a student. Because I always feel that each child has some talent somewhere, and it only needs to be tapped into, to be explored, and these children can do better. So we need to find a way to bring out whatever talent children have and don't base everything on exams and academic. So I really don't really feel that. I don't think that a child should be taking home a report with 2 in maths and nothing. So it is clear that those students can't cope at that level, and we need to find other ways to deal with them. I mean, some time ago, the ministry had started to look at what we call continuous assessment and so on, and that never came up as a actual policy. So the emphasis continued on the exams, the termly exams, to determine like a child's ability and so on. So I'm saying that as we move towards the education transformation and so on, that we're talking about junior schools and schools of excellence and so on. But we need to find the types of programs that where every child can find something that he can benefit from. So no child should be leaving secondary school. You know, they keep saying that we have this, I think it's only about 30% or so students who are leaving school with certified. I believe that it should be a way where there should be programs in the school that those students who are not academic should be able to leave with a certificate in plumbing or those types of skills subjects and so on. So that there's some achievement. They don't leave feeling that school has failed me. So I think that's something that needs to be done. And I know that the programs exist in the secondary schools, but they have to find a way to ensure that the students there benefit from these programs, along with those who are academically minded, who would beat any exam anytime, anywhere.
The University of the West Indies professor Corinne Bailey supports an education overhaul.
Take education, for example. That requires revamping of education systems, and those are very difficult, quote unquote, difficult to do because we're talking about the political process that often requires quick wins. We're talking about election cycles. Politicians tend to privilege quick wins, understandably. So accepting that a revamp of the education system is part and parcel of a holistic crime prevention program is easier said than done. But my point is those national level things that need to be done require structural change. We need a revamping of education systems. We equal access. So what I mentioned to you, for example, in Jamaica, and to an extent it happens here as well. The exams, for example, that children take at 11, they vary throughout the region, but effectively they determine where it is that they go on to. Inevitably, it is your economic background plays too large a role in where you end up, because if you are privileged enough to go to private schools, you're going to be more likely to end up in those schools that are associated with success, and that it's more stark in a country like Jamaica than here, but make no mistake, it is in play here as well too. And so there are various ways that you can attack that, but it requires a revamping of the system. Whether that be, some might say what you do is bring all schools up to the same level. One, that's probably unrealistic. Of course, it's ideal, but two, that doesn't promote the type of social mixing that you need as well. What you want is some kind of system, whether that be zoning or busing, but some kind of system that gives everybody an equal opportunity to obtain the type of education that matters. Education systems within the Caribbean are inherently exclusive, another relic from our colonial past.
But often, the genesis of the issue lies in the home, and parenting is a key part of it. Parenting rehabilitation is one of the aspects of the National Peace Program. Nicolette Williams is the program's Assistant Director for Rehabilitation and Therapy.
I'm in charge of all rehabilitative and reintegration programs that fall under the pillar of violence reduction, national engagement, and rehabilitation and therapy in the National Peace Program in the Office of the Attorney General. So right now we have a couple programs, mainly our Parent Wise, our national parenting program, which is manned by the Attorney General and the Prime Minister. But we have 5 CSOs who are very specialized in parenting or specialized in rehabilitative parenting for parents of Barbados. So we have Men's Empowerment, we have Amar Empowerment, we have Parados, we have Barbados Association of Professional Social Workers, as well as CISEL, where they focus on emotional intelligence.
What do you find out very you wonder what's behind this violence, poverty, family dysfunction, community dysfunction? What are you finding out? How are you able to help?
Well, what we're finding out basically is that a lot of parents don't have the avenues to get the help that they need. And the initiative of ParentWise was really one of the greatest forums, because a lot of parents are struggling, not suffering, but struggling in their own silence. And they don't have the immediate avenues and interventions to help them go out there to just express and share their concerns to get the help that they could take back into their homes and implement those skills.
What's that impact on what we're seeing over there? The symptoms of crime across. What's that impact?
Well, the impact is I would say medium to high, because when parents come to our programs, right now I can say Stetson is that we are going right through the 11 parishes in Barbados with our stakeholders, and we are finishing this month in November, and we resume in January 2025. How what how the impact is that these parents are now coming out, and they're going back into their homes, and they're now bringing their children to the programs. Usually we just see parents come into the programs, but now parents are bringing their children, the same children that have behavioral issues and what's not, to these workshops, so that those children can hear and participate with the parents to get the help that they need, so that they could take that action in the programs or in the workshops back to the homes.
So is there a stronger link between crime you're seeing, the violent crime, and what's happening in the
Um, I I would say to some extent yes, to some extent no. I would say that the act of crime, yes, home does impact the individual that commits the crime. And that's the reason why we have the parent program, because they need to be trained, they need to be educated on how to speak to their children. Because a lot of children, myself being a therapist, a lot of children come to me privately or in groups and they say my mommy and daddy are not home and I can't get to express how I feel, and I will go and take up a honey or take up a butter and sell it for something or sell it for drugs. And these children are crying out for help silently. So then it's to get those parents in these workshops so that they will know and hear the truth from people who get the truth from their children, so that they can make a change.
An example of how we're making a difference over there.
How are we? We're making a difference by for in consistency and continuity. Every week we are in community centers, we are in churches, we are at schools, not just in our parent ways, but actually through Supreme Counseling, we partner with them and Crime Stoppers, as well as Tyrese Caesar Foundation at the Frederick Smith Secondary School. And we know that most schools in the West and the South, and some in the North, like Alexandria CP, will have some challenges with those children, and we are in those schools, creating those programs with the same stakeholders to aid in behavior modification and rehabilitation.
So, because we hear a lot of school violence. What are you seeing out there?
Well,
More than causes.
lack of company, lack of connection from the same parents, same grannies, same granddads, high substance use. We are seeing that, to be honest. How do we reduce that? How do we work around that? How do we help educate the do's and don'ts of it? We have to go into the schools. We have to have these programs with the parents continuously and consistently. We have to be like a pest in their ears with different alternative interventions. Because if we say one thing one particular way in a very monotonous, they're not going to learn it. So we have to be very creative with the interventions.
So we're hearing that there are cases where there's drug abuse, children at very young age. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, children are using substances at a very young age. That is the honest truth.
Like what?
7 to 8 boys, the research,
7 years old.
7 years old, 8 years old are using substances,
Like what?
particularly cigarettes, because daddy and uncle and mommy are leaving the cigarette butt on the ground and they're experimenting. Some children are using the act of tea bags in their homes in order, tea bags, the actual tea bags to roll in toilet paper, to have the act of smoking. It's not good, but it's the action
What
of
part of
doing
it?
that. Pardon me?
What part of it?
Oh, definitely. Marijuana is something that is being used at a very young age, as well as alcohol. We know alcohol is legal. So we know that it is in almost every, say 95% of homes in Barbados. So children are going to experiment with that. But again, it's how we educate, how we teach these children in the schools, and we work with these parents in the homes on how to reduce, how to remove, and how to empower these children, that they would not have to pick up a substance or pick up a weapon in the house to commit crime.
Next, on the streets, there are many causes of crime. What are some of the solutions?
This is a very hard question to answer, because my philosophy is that it has to be holistic. and attacking one without the other just will not work.